Can we go to the mind of Vladimir Putin? Because what you just said, China, India, they seem to sit back and say, we're not going to condemn the actions of Vladimir Putin and Russia, but we would really like for this war to be over. So there's that kind of energy of, we don't just stop this because you're putting us in a very, very bad position. And yet, Vladimir Putin is continuing the aggression. What is he thinking? What information is he getting? Is it the system that you've described of authoritarian regimes that corrupts your flow of information, your ability to make clear-headed decisions? Just as a human being, when you go to sleep at night, is he not able to see the world clearly? Or is this all deliberate, systematic action that does have some reason behind it?
We got to talk a little bit about China too, but let's answer your Putin question directly. So on Twitter, you've lost the war. Or as they say, there are these two Russian soldiers having a smoke in Warsaw. And, they're taking a break, having a smoke, and they're sitting there in Warsaw on top of their tank. And one says to the other, yeah, we lost the information war. And there they are sitting in Warsaw having that smoke, right? So yeah, on Twitter, Russia has completely lost the war. In reality, they failed to take Kiev. They failed to capture Kiev. And they failed in phase 2, as they called it, or plan B, which is to capture the entirety of the Donbass. We're 3 months into the war. If you had made a judgment about, let's say, the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union, a definitive judgment after 3 months, you might have got the outcome wrong there. If you had judged the Winter War, the 1939-40 Soviet invasion of Finland, after 3 months, you would have got that wrong too, of what the outcome was going to be. So we're early in the game here, and we have to be careful about any definitive judgments. But it is the case that so far, they failed to take Kiev, and they failed to capture the entirety of the Donbass, Luhansk and Donetsk provinces, eastern Ukraine, a part of eastern Ukraine. And they've been driven out of Kharkiv and the area immediately surrounding Kharkiv. They never captured Kharkiv, but they came close, but now the Ukrainians drove them back to the Russian border in that very large and important region. So those look like battlefield losses that are impossible to explain away if you're the regime in Russia, except by suppression of information. And as you know from Russian history, Lex, leaders in Russia have an easier time with a state of siege and deprivation than they do with explaining a lost war. But let's look at some other facts that are important to take into account. One, the Russian army has penetrated farther into Ukrainian territory since February 2022, including in Kherson region, the famous Mariupol siege that just ended. They have built a large presence in areas north of Crimea on the Sea of Azov, the Black Sea littoral ultimately, that they didn't previously hold. They're still fighting in Luhansk for full control over at least half of the Donbass, and Ukrainians are resisting fiercely. But nonetheless, you can't say that they've been driven out. On the contrary, farther penetration than the beginning. Ukraine doesn't have an economy anymore. They have somewhere between 33 and 50% unemployment. It's hard to measure unemployment in a war economy. But their metallurgical industry, that Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol, is a ruin now. And a lot of farmers are not planting the fields because the harvest from the previous year still hasn't been sold abroad because the ports are blockaded or destroyed. And so you don't have an economy, and you need $5 billion or $7 billion or $8 billion a month to meet your payroll. to feed your people, to keep your army in the field. That's a lot of money per month. And that's indefinite. That's as long as this blockade lasts. And so you don't have an economy anymore. You're indigent. And even if you take the lower number, 5 billion, as opposed to Zelensky asked for 7 billion, 5 billion is 60 billion a year. That's 60 billion this year. That's 60 billion next year. And so who's got that kind of money? Which Western taxpayers are ready? And if you use the 7 or 8 billion, you get up to 100 billion a year. The Biden just signed, President Joe Biden just signed the bill making it law, $40 billion in aid to Ukraine. It's just an enormous sum. The economic piece of that is a month and a half, 2 months of Ukrainians covering Ukrainian expenditures. That's it. And they're asking the G7, they're asking everybody for this. So you have no economy and no prospect of an economy until you evict the Russians from your territory. And then you have a Western unity, Western resolve. It lasts or it doesn't last, Lex. So you're President Putin, and you've got more territory than before, and you've got a stranglehold over the Ukrainian economy, and you've got a lot of the world neutral, and you've got the Chinese propaganda supporting you to the hilt with those Oliver Stone and Mearsheimer lines about how this is really NATO's fault. And you've got Hungary dragging its feet on the oil embargo against Russia, and you got Turkey dragging its feet on the recent applications of Sweden and Finland for NATO expansion. And you're saying to yourself, Lex, maybe I can ride this out. I got a lot of problems of my own, and we can go into the details on the Russian side's challenges. But he's on Ukrainian territory unless he's evicted, and he's got a stranglehold on their economy, and he's got the possibility that the West doesn't stay resolved and doesn't continue to pay for Ukraine's economy or supply those heavy weapons. And so you could argue that maybe he's deluded about all of this, and maybe he should go on Twitter. You know, I'm not on Twitter, but maybe Putin, who famously doesn't use the internet, should go on Twitter and see he's losing the war. Or you can argue that maybe he's calculating here that he's got a chance to still prevail.